I'm going to give you the evidence that will prove to you beyond a reasonable doubt that you will live on happy and healthy after your body dies. I'm Dr. R. Craig Hogan, president of the Afterlife Research and Education Institute, author, co-author, or editor of 10 books containing the evidence we are spiritual beings who live on after we've left our bodies behind. The evidence is in these videos. We ought to expect that since people live on after their bodies die, people who specialize in working with the mind, such as psychotherapists, would have had some contact with people living in the next life. That is, in fact, what has happened. Today, there are 3 therapy methods being used by psychotherapists that help people enter a state of mind in which they have an afterlife communication. The first of these is called an induced after-death communication, or IADC. The method was developed by Dr. Alan Botkin, a psychotherapist at the North Chicago Veterans Administration facility. He learned how to use a psychotherapy method called eye movement desensitization and reprocessing that is used with PTSD and trauma patients to help people have afterlife communications. The method is 76% successful. The client is put into a relaxed state and closes their eyes. The afterlife communication happens. The psychotherapist does nothing to influence what happens and learns about it only after the client opens their eyes and tells the psychotherapist about what happened. The therapy method and 84 cases are described in our book, Induced After-Death Communication, A New Therapy for Grief and Trauma. This is one example, narrated from the book as related from a client named Jim, who had a successful IADC procedure.
I was very close to Simon and his wife, Darlene. In my IADC with Dr. Botkin, I saw Simon and talked with him. I felt he was okay, but I was really hoping to have a message for Darlene. She was not doing well at all. Dr. Botkin took me into the IADC procedure again to have another after-death communication so I could ask Simon for a message for Darlene. But this time I only saw 2 hands, a broad, masculine hand over a feminine hand. I felt they were Simon's and Darlene's hands, but there was no message. I was really disappointed I didn't have a message for Darlene, but was really happy at the contact with Simon. After my session with Dr. Botkin, I went to Darlene's home. I told her about my communication with Simon I had while with Dr. Botkin. Then I said, "Darlene, I'm disappointed I didn't have a message to give you from Simon." I said, "All I saw was Simon's hand on top of your hand." She began to cry, smiling and nodding her head. She said to me,
"Last night I had a dream. It was so clear it didn't seem like a dream. I really felt, Simon holding my hand. Jim, he did give you a message from him to me. He was saying that it really was him holding my hand last night."
Jim was put into a relaxed state in which the afterlife communication occurred all by itself, with no influence by the psychotherapist or by Jim. He was getting everything from Simon. The proof of that is that Simon showed Jim something Jim had no understanding of. It was a message for Darlene. Simon was alive and well, living in the life after this life. He was able to visit his wife Darlene and hold her hand so fully that she actually felt it. He then showed it to Jim so Jim could tell Darlene it really was him. Simon lives on, just as you and I will live on after our bodies die. This psychotherapy procedure proves that. You can learn about the Induced After-Death Communication method at induced-adc.com. The book we wrote describing the procedure is Induced After-Death Communication, A New Therapy for Grief and Trauma. Another Washington State licensed psychotherapist named Rochelle Wrights improved on Dr. Botkin's method. She was able to help 98% of her clients have afterlife communications. They reduced the client's grief from high scores of 10 and 10 plus on a 10-point scale of disturbance to 0 to 3 points in one session. The procedure is called Repair and Reattachment Grief Therapy. This is an example. A woman named Carol came to Rochelle because of her grief over her daughter's passing in a car accident. Rochelle used her procedure with Carol, and Carol had a wonderful connection with her daughter. This is a video of Carol describing what happened as she sat in Rochelle's office.
Immediately as my session began, I had headphones on and music playing and was following Rochelle's instructions. my daughter Kate came up in my head. The best way to describe it was my eyes were closed, and the visual right away was on the left side of my mind. Kate appeared coming down a sidewalk, and like I said, it was on my left side. There was a wall, and it was beautiful. There was ivy growing out of it and a big old tree. Kate started walking towards me, and it was amazing to have this. I was sitting there with my eyes closed, literally looking at my daughter Kate walking towards me. As she walked towards me, she put her hand out, and I was able to put my hand out and feel hers on mine. I was able to feel her fingers, also to hug her and to stroke her hair. She was wearing a t-shirt and shorts and flip-flops like she did when she was alive and she was here on earth, and it was amazing. She led me down the sidewalk, and we walked, and she was talking, and I couldn't understand what she was saying, but it was just truly amazing that my daughter was literally, I was right there with her. Other than to say that it was real, I don't know how else to explain it. We flashed from walking on the sidewalk to the accident scene, and Kate died on a Sunday night in torrential downpour of rain. We went to the accident scene. Kate was in a white dress, and she was right over the center of the street. I could see the lake that was at the accident scene. I could see the guardrail. The rain was on an angle. The visual was unbelievable. It was so clear. It was like I was right there with her. We were literally in the middle of the street, and then we would flash back to the sidewalk. As my connection with Kate was happening, Martine, my girlfriend Linda, who flew to Gig Harbor with me, son, was coming in and out of back and forth with me and Kate. Martine was sitting on his couch in his family room, and he had his leg up on the coffee table, and it's real clear for me still to this day, and he was smiling at me, and he had his arm in a very funny pose. The best way to describe it was like in a monkey pose. I didn't know what that meant. I just kept flashing back and forth. I was kind of confused, but to feel that connection to my daughter, and I knew it was real, was amazing. So I went back and forth with my daughter Kate, and it would flash to Martine, and Kate I was outside with, and Martine I was inside with. I could, just look at her. It was real. We'd held hands. I hugged her. I stroked her hair. It was truly amazing. I don't know how to describe it other than I know that it was real. I know with confidence today that it was real. And the validation, which I think is one of the most important parts, is that after I left my session and walked back to the hotel, I was describing to Linda Martine's arms in the shape of the monkey pose, going ee and smiling at me. And what I found out is that Martine used to do that with his family all the time. It was something he just did with his sisters and his mom. I didn't know that he did that. So for me, that proved to me and Linda that it was real. So to this day, when I cry and grieve my daughter, I'm not cured and it's not gone away, the pain. But I always know where my daughter is, and she's free and she's happy and she's on the other side. Thank you.
Another psychotherapist named Jane Bissler developed a method of helping people have their own afterlife communication experiences to connect with people for whom they're grieving. The method is over 90% successful. She helps the experiencer enter a state of relaxation in an internet meeting, so the person doesn't have to meet with her. She teaches the experiencers how to enter the state of relaxation on their own after the session. This is a narration of the report one of her experiencers gave about what happened to her.
There was a light. I think William appeared shortly after that. He looked so good. He was wearing a yellow Adidas t-shirt. Then William showed me this big pink flower, and it was so weird. It was like the flower was alive. It was so fresh and moist. It was like the flower could breathe. There was a lake and lily pads with more flowers, and William said, "Lotus land." He said the flower was a lotus. I never would have known this. Then off a bit to the left there was this amazing show of colors. It was Aurora Borealis. It was not like the Aurora Borealis we have here in Alberta. This was like Aurora Borealis cranked up like you have never seen. It was mind-blowing and magical. The colors were like I could go into the colors. William said he liked where he was. He missed and loved me. He asked if I could come there. He said there is every kind of ice cream there that you can imagine, even cherry chunks and vanilla, which was his favorite. He said our dog, Hershey, cannot yet see him in spirit. Then he took me down a road. It was like I was with him. I could see every pebble. He took me to an old covered wagon. There was a man sitting on the little wagon bench. He was older, had gray hair and a beard, and was wearing one of those hats like they wear in the Australian outback. He was slim, and had on a white shirt and brown pants with suspenders. He did not say anything to me or acknowledge me. The wagon I could see in such detail that I could see where the cloth of the covered part attached to the wagon part. I could see some loose threads. The wagon was being pulled by two enormous beautiful black Clydesdale horses. They were magnificent. I looked directly into their eyes, and they looked back at me like they were an inch from my face. I could feel their breath and the softness of their nostrils. They had white fur on their legs, down near their hooves. I could see the fur so clearly, like little bits of dirt in the fur. It was so clear. I cannot describe how clear this was. It was just so amazing. I think at this point I had almost forgot I was sitting in a chair. I was so engrossed in my surroundings. William said he liked riding in the back of the wagon. Then at that point I could feel William was leaving. He said he would see me later, and he loved me.
The woman had a real vivid experience of her son William coming to her and giving her the experience of a flower with the name of a place she knew nothing about, Lotus Land. William was alive, well, and anxious to communicate. These psychotherapists have learned how to help their clients enter a state of mind in which they can have life-changing communication with their loved ones now living in the life after this life. They learned things they did not know that were validated. The communications are evidence their loved ones continue to live after their bodies have died. We also will continue to live when we leave our bodies behind, like an old tattered overcoat we no longer have use for. You will never die.